Back again for another video. So this time I want to discuss dating. I want to look at it in a way of musical chairs. There are 8 people standing, but there are only 6 chairs available. When the music stops, there are 2 people standing, and those 2 people represent part of a culture. And in these cultures, they are seen either feminine or masculine. These 2 cultures that I speak of are the Asian culture and the Black culture. I'll start with the Black culture first. Now, it is very well known and accepted across the globe that the Black culture in America is seen as very hypermasculine. No matter where you go in the world, especially as a Black man, I've experienced this personally myself, you have an expectation that precedes you of who you are expected to be. People see you as hypermasculine well before they even meet you, if you understand what I mean. This is also the same that is said of Asian men. They've been perceived as being more feminine when compared to other cultures. Now, I'm not here to say if Asian men are feminine or if Black women are masculine. I'm just pointing out something that may have been left off the table in discussing why these 2 groups of demographics have a hard time dating. Now, when it comes to the Black culture, like I said, we are seen as very hyper-masculine. Matter of fact, get it done, aggressive, brute, don't take no shit, right? Well, what is the perception of the women? If that is asserted to describe the Black culture, then it's all of the culture. It's all of the people in it. It's not just the men. It's ascribed to the women as well. Now, this is a social definition. This is a social scope, or should I say a social lens that these 2 groups of people are placed under. And when people look at them through this lens, they either see the masculine BW or the feminine Asian man, right? This isn't my own personal opinion. Once again, these things come about naturally. I mean, we see the reflection of this in the dating scene once again, because these are the 2 that are left out. I'm just here to describe or give a perception or take of why this could be happening. It's nothing more than an explanation. I don't care either way, because I am not either of those demographics. But since this conversation has been brought up several times, I pondered on it a little bit, and this is what I came up with. Because I see it often, especially when it comes to describing the Black woman, that she is very masculine, that she is very assertive, straightforward, don't take no shit, right? I mean, when compared to the Black man, she's not that. But when compared to other women, she is. This is the social definition that has been placed on both of these groups. Once again, this is not my opinion. This is just the way things have came out. This is the way things are. Now, when it comes to the Asian culture, when people generally, doesn't matter where you come from, when people generally think of Asian men, they don't necessarily think masculine because of the comparisons. When Asian culture is compared to the white culture, the Mexican culture, the European culture, the Australian culture, Any other culture that is not itself, it is seen as feminine. Once again, this is not my opinion. This is just the perception of the world. And I think this plays out in dating. Because when things are not in balance, according to what we know, what we feel in our gut and our soul and our spirit, to be masculine as masculine and feminine as feminine, then we turn away from it. Nature always has its checks and balances. Natural selection, of course, right? When something is out of balance with nature, it gets weeded out. And that's, once again, not me saying, this is not my opinion. I didn't create Darwinism. I didn't create the social structure. I'm just explaining it to you. This is not my opinion. This is me just explaining it to you. But anyway, I have to keep making that disclaimer because people will get in their feelings about what I have to say. Even though it's not my opinion, it's just me bringing you a report on what we already see. But anyways, the BW, she is seen across the globe as being very hyper masculine. This plays a part in her dating. You know, a lot of people ascribe so many other attributes of why she's not able to marry. Oh, well, she has education and, you know, she was raised to be independent. And some of her men date out, but she's loyal, majority, more so than black men, to her own race. But yet she's found to be unmarried still. The reason why is because of the social definition that's been placed on her. Hypermasculine. Even the men within our own group say that she's masculine. They say that she needs to be more feminine, need to be more soft-spoken, more meek and mild, more humble, have more humility, right? So when things are out of balance, it gets spread out. Women have been trying to figure out how to survive in this world for a very long time. But it seems that the BW has doubled down on her stance, that she will not get out the driver's seat. I'm here to tell her that you're driving to your own destruction, according to Darwinism. Anything that does not balance with nature will be weeded out. We've seen this for hundreds of millions of years. This has been the truth, no matter how you feel about it. When it comes to the Asian man, they consider him meek, mild, very soft-spoken, easy to run over. That's what they consider him. Now, I'm not saying this. I think that Asian men are very masculine within their culture. I mean, they came up with one of the sharpest swords in the world, as far as Japan goes. You know, they've waged wars for hundreds of years in China. I mean, it's not my opinion, once again. This is just how the world sees them. But they have themselves to blame. Geisha started around about the 1750s, I believe. What a geisha is a man that, well, I don't believe it was traditionally that way, but that's the historical fact of it, that a lot of geishas were actual men that were portraying women. You know, the Asian culture has been playing with androgyny well before the word was even a word. The word androgynous didn't come out to about 1850. You know, so they've been on it for a long time. Like I said, they have themselves to blame in how the world sees them. I mean, even within K-pop, a lot of those artists, they're very popular, but they strike me as very androgynous, not very masculine. And I'm sure that if I can see it, everyone else can see it as well. So this may be another assertion or insertion to explain why the BW is not able to date readily and why the Asian man is also at the bottom as well. Because of how the world sees them. They see them as out of balance with their presence of being, who they're supposed to be. We generally understand that women are supposed to be feminine, and we also generally understand that women or men are supposed to be masculine. So when these things are out of balance, people don't draw to them in the way that others would expect them to. Sure, we live in a culture where it says that everyone should be accepted and everyone is beautiful, but the numbers don't lie. Like I said, we know this about these studies. That OkCupid came out with a demographic study of who was least likely to find a mate. That's objective. There's nothing subjective about that. Once again, this is not my opinion. This is just an explanation to explain why the BW is not able to date out. It's because she is seen as out of balance with the masculine and feminine principle. And this goes the same for the Asian man. There's a certain type of animal on the Galapagos Island called the blue-footed booby. It's a funny looking creature. You should probably look it up. It has a very specific mating strategy by one of behavioral isolation. There are other animals on that island, the Galapagos Island, that looks exactly like them. If they were to mate with those animals, then they would fail at reproduction because the DNA doesn't line up. So they do a specific dance in order to attract a mate that they can reproduce with. There are several types of isolations that prevent a species from reproducing. They're called prezygotic barriers. And these barriers range from how they operate. Habitat isolation. This means that you're not even in the vicinity in order to reproduce. Or there's a barrier that prevents you from reproducing. Then there's temporal isolation. That means that you don't match up at the right time in order to reproduce. Then there's mechanical isolation. This means that you don't have the right parts to reproduce. And then, of course, the one that we're talking about, behavioral isolation. This means that your behavior does not match the behavior that is recognized by the species as being acceptable to reproduce with. This is the problem that these two groups are running into because they're not socially accepted in their behavior and how they carry themselves. So therefore, they won't reproduce. Once again, this is not my opinion. These are all factual, objective things that you all can go look up. If anybody has a problem with it, call Darwin. So I hope you understand this, and I hope you get something from it. This is just an explanation. But anyways, I've talked long enough. This has been a Wolf and Beta Close. May you have a good day, and peace be with you.